My dear friends, life is a beautiful journey filled with relationships that nourish us, inspire us, and help us grow. But along this path, we sometimes meet people who drain our energy, disturb our peace, and cloud our happiness. People we often call toxic. The truth is, we cannot avoid such people completely. They may be in our workplaces, families, or even close circles. But what we can do is learn how to deal with them with grace, wisdom, and emotional strength. When someone throws negativity at us, it is easy to react with anger or revenge. But reacting only ties us to their toxicity. The real power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering ourselves. Remember, peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of a calm mind amidst them. When we talk about dealing with toxic people, the first and most vital step is to protect your inner peace. In life, we often encounter individuals whose words sting and whose actions disturb our calm. They might criticize us, manipulate situations, or constantly complain. Their negativity can easily seep into our minds if we're not careful. But true strength lies in preserving our tranquility despite the chaos around us. You see, peace is not something that others give to us. It is something we cultivate within. And when we protect that inner stillness, no matter what happens outside, we remain unshaken. Think about it this way. If you were walking through a muddy path, would you lie down and roll in the mud just because it's there? Of course not. You'd watch your steps carefully to stay clean. The same goes for our emotional lives. When someone throws mud in the form of anger, gossip, or bitterness, we don't have to let it stain our peace. Their behavior reflects their inner state, not ours. The moment we allow their negativity to control how we feel, we hand over our power. Protecting peace means keeping that power within us. It's refusing to let another storm decide our weather. People often misunderstand peace as silence or avoidance, but real peace is active awareness. It means choosing not to react impulsively when provoked, not to raise your voice when others are shouting, and not to let frustration take over when things don't go your way. It's easy to be calm when life is kind. The real test of peace is staying centered when life feels cruel. Every toxic encounter becomes an opportunity to practice patience and self-mastery. Sometimes toxic people don't even realize the harm they cause. They speak harshly because that's how they speak to themselves. They spread bitterness because they are drowning in it. So, instead of matching their energy, try observing it. When someone acts hurtful, remind yourself, this is their pain, not mine. That small shift in perspective creates emotional distance. You begin to see that their behavior is not personal, it's a projection. The moment you stop taking it personally, you start reclaiming your peace. Protecting your peace also means knowing when to step back. Not every battle deserves your time or energy. Walking away from toxicity doesn't mean you're weak. It means you value yourself enough to choose serenity over chaos. It's not your job to fix people who refuse to change. You can show kindness, You can listen. But you cannot sacrifice your mental well-being for someone else's turmoil. Protecting peace is not selfish, it's sacred self-care. One of the simplest yet most powerful tools to maintain peace is silence. When you stop engaging in unnecessary arguments, gossip, or drama, you conserve your energy. Silence is not about suppressing emotions, it's about channeling them wisely. It allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally. In silence, you hear the truth more clearly. The truth that peace doesn't come from controlling others, but from mastering yourself. To protect your inner peace, spend time in stillness, reflect, and remind yourself of what truly matters. The more you nurture calmness through meditation, gratitude, or prayer, the less space negativity will find within you. Because a peaceful mind is like a deep ocean. No matter how strong the waves on the surface, its depths remain calm. And when you learn to live from that depth, toxic people lose their power over you. You don't fight their darkness, you simply shine brighter. When we interact with toxic people, one of the greatest mistakes we make is taking their behavior personally. We start to believe that their harsh words or negative actions are a reflection of our worth. But the truth is, toxic people act from their own unresolved pain, fears, and insecurities. Their behavior is not about you, it's about them. When we understand this deeply, we stop internalizing their chaos. We realize that we are not responsible for how they feel or what they say. We can only be responsible for how we respond. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that is covered with dust. No matter how clean you are, your reflection will look dirty because the mirror itself is unclear. In the same way, when someone's heart and mind are clouded with bitterness or insecurity, everything they see is tinted by that negativity. You could speak gently, but they'll interpret it as weakness. You could act kindly, and they'll see it as manipulation. They don't see you for who you are. They see you through the lens of their pain. Understanding this truth frees you from unnecessary guilt or confusion. You stop trying to convince them of your goodness because you realize their perception isn't your responsibility. Taking things personally only multiplies your suffering. When a toxic person insults you, criticizes you, or ignores you, it is natural to feel hurt. But when you hold on to that pain, replaying their words in your mind, you give them power. They may have spoken once, but you are the one echoing it within. Emotional maturity means breaking that loop. When someone throws negativity your way, you have two choices: absorb it or let it pass. The second choice requires awareness. You can silently tell yourself, "This has nothing to do with me," and move forward. It's not about being indifferent. It's about protecting your emotional balance. Often, toxic people are deeply wounded individuals who haven't learned how to process their emotions. They project their hurt because they don't know how to heal it. Their anger might come from rejection, their criticism from insecurity, and their arrogance from fear. When you see beyond their behavior and recognize the pain behind it, your anger starts to fade. Compassion replaces resentment. You stop seeing them as enemies and start seeing them as humans struggling with their own battles. That doesn't mean you accept their toxicity. It simply means you choose understanding over reaction. Taking nothing personally also means realizing that the world doesn't revolve around our feelings. People act based on their experiences, not ours. Someone's mood, their response, or even their silence might have nothing to do with you. Maybe they're stressed, tired, or facing their own struggles. When you interpret every action as a personal attack, you end up burdening yourself unnecessarily. Emotional freedom begins when you stop interpreting everything through the lens of ego. This mindset doesn't develop overnight, it takes practice. Every time someone tries to provoke you, remind yourself that their behavior is their reflection, not your reality. Detach emotionally. Observe calmly and choose your peace over their projection. You can be kind without being controlled, compassionate without being consumed. The moment you stop taking toxicity personally, you reclaim your power. You no longer react to every insult or mood. You respond with awareness and dignity. You understand that no one's bitterness can define your worth. And that is when you begin to live with strength, grace, and peace, untouched by the storms around you. Setting healthy boundaries is one of the most powerful acts of self-respect and emotional maturity you can practice when dealing with toxic people. It's about understanding your limits and having the courage to communicate them clearly. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They're about protecting your mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, just as a fence protects a garden from being trampled. Boundaries protect your peace from being invaded. When you learn to say no without guilt and yes without fear, you take back control of your life from those who drain your energy. Many people struggle with boundaries because they fear rejection or conflict. They think setting limits will make others dislike them. But the truth is, people who genuinely care for you will always respect your boundaries, while those who are offended by them were benefiting from your lack of them. Toxic people thrive in environments where lines are blurry. They manipulate guilt, trip, and control others because they sense hesitation. The moment you draw a firm line, they often react with anger or disappointment, but that's not a reflection of your wrongdoing. It's a reflection of their inability to respect others' space. Boundaries are not just about saying no to others, they're also about saying yes to yourself. Every time you overextend every time you agree to something that feels wrong, you silently betray your own needs. Over time, this leads to frustration, resentment, and exhaustion. Learning to set limits is an act of self-love. It means acknowledging that your time, your energy, and your peace are precious resources that should be guarded carefully. It's not selfish to put yourself first when your well-being is at stake. It's essential. Sometimes, Toxic people disguise manipulation as care. They may say things like, "I'm only doing this because I care about you," or "You've changed," "You're not the same person anymore." These statements are designed to make you feel guilty for asserting yourself. But remember, someone who truly cares about you would never make you feel small for protecting your peace. Real love doesn't demand you sacrifice your happiness. It respects your choices and supports your growth. Setting boundaries can be uncomfortable at first, especially if you've been a people pleaser for a long time. You might feel guilty or anxious, but that's just the discomfort of change. Over time, as practice saying no to things that drain you, you'll notice how much lighter and more peaceful you feel. Boundaries teach others how to treat you, and more importantly, they remind you how to treat yourself. You stop chasing validation from those who don't value you, and you start creating space for those who do. It's also important to understand that boundaries are not always verbal. They can be emotional or physical as well. Sometimes, it's not about saying anything. It's about distancing yourself from environments or conversations that harm you. It's about not engaging in gossip, not responding to manipulation, and not allowing others to use your kindness as a weakness. Silence can be a boundary too, and walking away can be the loudest form of self-respect. In the end, healthy boundaries are not barriers to connection, they are bridges to healthier relationships. They allow you to love freely without fear of being used or drained. They teach you to interact with others from a place of confidence rather than obligation. When you respect your own limits, you inspire others to do the same, and slowly, you build a life where peace is not something you chase, it's something you live within, guarded by the quiet strength of your boundaries. Choosing your battles wisely is one of the most essential lessons in dealing with toxic people. Life will always present moments where you are tempted to argue, defend yourself, or prove a point. But the truth is, not every conflict deserves your energy. There is a difference between standing up for yourself and getting dragged into unnecessary drama. When you engage with every insult, every provocation, and every petty argument, you end up exhausting your peace. Wisdom lies in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to fight and when to walk away. It takes real strength to recognize that sometimes peace is more powerful than being right. Toxic people often thrive on reactions. The more you argue with them, the more fuel you give to their fire. They twist words, shift blame, and use emotional manipulation to pull you into their chaos. You might think you're defending yourself, but in reality, you're being pulled into a trap that drains your energy and clouds your clarity. That's why sometimes silence is the best response. Not because you're weak or afraid, but because you value your mental peace more than their approval or understanding. Walking away doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've won by refusing to let their negativity define your state of mind. Choosing your battles also means recognizing that you don't have to correct every misunderstanding or respond to every criticism. People will believe what they want to believe and you can't spend your life trying to explain yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. The moment you stop trying to win every argument, you reclaim your peace. Not everything needs to be addressed. Some things are better left unsaid because the energy it takes to prove yourself could be used to improve yourself instead. You see, silence is not always weakness, it is maturity. It's knowing that reacting to every provocation lowers your vibration and steals your calm. The wise choose peace over pride, calm over chaos. When you refuse to argue with someone who only seeks to drain you, you protect your dignity. Toxic people often get louder when they realize they've lost control over your emotions. They might insult you more, spread rumors, or try to make you feel guilty. But remember, your reaction is their reward. The moment you stop reacting, you take back your power. There's also a spiritual strength in choosing your battles. It's about trusting that not every wrong needs to be righted by you. Sometimes the best way to teach someone a lesson is through your absence, not your arguments. Your silence speaks louder than your words ever could. It shows that you've outgrown the need to be understood by those who refuse to understand. You start valuing peace over ego, and that's when your life begins to transform. Choosing your battles doesn't mean becoming passive or avoiding necessary confrontation. It means responding with intention. If something threatens your integrity, values, or peace, address it firmly but calmly. But if it's a minor issue, a moment of rudeness, or a baseless comment, let it pass. You don't have to show up to every argument you're invited to. Some invitations are best declined with silence and grace. Ultimately, peace is not found by winning every battle. It's found by walking away from the ones that don't matter. Every time you choose silence over anger, you grow stronger. Every time you prioritize peace over pride, you rise higher. The wisest warriors are not those who fight every fight. They are the ones who know which fights are worth fighting for and which are not worth losing their peace over. Detachment is one of the most powerful tools you can cultivate when dealing with toxic people. It doesn't mean that you stop caring, loving, or showing compassion. It means you learn to care without losing yourself in the process. Detachment is about emotional independence. It's about being able to witness someone's behavior without being pulled into their emotional chaos. It's the art of remaining calm even when others around you are storming. When you master detachment, you begin to realize that you can be kind, understanding, and supportive without allowing someone else's negativity to dictate your inner peace. In relationships, whether at work, home, or among friends, people often mistake attachment for love. They think that caring deeply means involving themselves completely in another person's emotions. But when you get too entangled, their anger becomes your anger, Their sadness becomes your sadness, and their chaos becomes your burden. That's not love. That's emotional dependency. Detachment allows you to create a healthy space between your emotions and theirs. You can observe what's happening, empathize with their struggle, and even offer help. But you don't drown in their storm. When dealing with toxic people, detachment helps you stay objective. You stop reacting impulsively to their words or actions. Instead, you start observing their patterns calmly. You begin to see that their manipulation, anger, or drama isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their inner turmoil. The moment you stop internalizing their behavior, you free yourself from the emotional trap they've set. You no longer feel the need to constantly explain, defend, or fix things. You simply understand that not every problem is yours to solve. Detachment also gives you clarity. When you're emotionally tangled, it's hard to see the truth. You might keep trying to change the other person, believing that if you just love them more or treat them better, they'll finally change. But detachment helps you see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. It allows you to accept that some people may never change, no matter how much you care. And that acceptance brings peace. You stop chasing what's out of your control and start focusing on what you can control. Your response, your mindset, your energy. A detached person doesn't react, they respond. When someone insults you, instead of exploding or withdrawing in pain, you take a breath, observe the emotion rising within, and choose a response that aligns with your peace. Detachment gives you that pause, that sacred moment between stimulus and response, where wisdom lives. It's what allows you to maintain dignity in situations where others lose theirs. To practice detachment, start by reminding yourself daily that your happiness is your responsibility. No one else has the right to control how you feel unless you allow them to. Spend time in solitude. Meditate or reflect on what truly matters to you. The more you connect with your inner self, the less dependent you become on external validation. You begin to realize that peace doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from mastering your own emotions. Detachment is not coldness, it's strength. It's the ability to love fully while remaining centered, to give compassion without losing yourself, to stand firm in your peace even when surrounded by turmoil. When you learn to detach with love, you don't withdraw from people. You rise above their negativity. You don't escape relationships. You elevate them. You bring stability where there was once chaos, calm where there was conflict, and wisdom where there was confusion. And in that balance, you discover the most powerful form of freedom. The freedom to be at peace no matter who or what surrounds you. Focusing on your growth is one of the most transformative ways to handle toxic people, because it shifts your attention from what's wrong around you to what can be made right within you. Toxic individuals can drain your energy, test your patience, and challenge your peace. But every interaction with them is also a mirror showing you where your strength, maturity, and self-awareness truly stand. Instead of asking, why are they like this? Start asking, what is this teaching me? When you redirect your focus from their behavior to your own growth, you turn every negative experience into an opportunity for self-improvement. Every person who irritates you or triggers you is revealing something about yourself that you might need to heal or strengthen. Maybe they expose your impatience, your sensitivity to criticism, or your fear of rejection. These realizations can be uncomfortable, but they are necessary for growth. Toxic people can be like sandpaper. They irritate you, but they also smooth your rough edges. You learn emotional control when someone tries to provoke you, patience when someone tests your limits, and confidence when someone tries to make you doubt yourself. Their negativity becomes the very fire that forges your resilience. When you focus on growth, you stop being reactive. Instead of matching negativity with negativity, you begin to respond with awareness. You start asking yourself, what response in this moment will help me grow? That question alone can transform a confrontation into a classroom. Every insult becomes a lesson in self-control, every disagreement a lesson in humility, and every disappointment a lesson in letting go. You realize that life is not about avoiding toxic people. It's about learning how to stay peaceful in their presence. Growth happens not in comfort, but in challenge. Focusing on your growth also means refusing to let others define your worth. Toxic people often project their insecurities onto you, making you doubt your value. But personal growth teaches you to anchor yourself, esteem within yourself, not in the approval of others. When you're secure in your identity, their criticism no longer shakes you. You start to understand that what they say is a reflection of who they are, not of who you are. Instead of defending yourself to prove your worth, you silently let your actions and peace speak louder. Growth requires awareness and reflection. After every difficult encounter, take a moment to reflect. How did I feel? How did I respond? What can I do better next time? Over time, you'll notice patterns in your behavior. Maybe you tend to over-explain yourself, get emotionally drained easily, or hold on to resentment. Becoming aware of these tendencies allows you to grow beyond them. The toxic person may not change, but you can. That's the power of personal development. It puts control back in your hands. You also begin to see that growth doesn't mean becoming harder. It means becoming wiser. It's not about building walls, but about strengthening your foundation. You learn when to speak and when to stay silent, when to walk away and when to forgive. You stop viewing toxic people as obstacles and start seeing them as part of your training. Their presence becomes a test of your emotional strength and spiritual maturity. The beautiful thing about focusing on growth is that the more you evolve, the less control toxic people have over you. They lose their ability to provoke you because you no longer react from a place of insecurity or ego. You rise above the pettiness and your energy begins to shift. You start attracting peace instead of drama, kindness instead of criticism, and authenticity instead of manipulation. That's the reward of growth. It not only changes how you deal with toxic people, it changes the kind of people you attract into your life. Surrounding yourself with positivity is one of the most effective ways to protect your mind and heart from the damage caused by toxic people. When you spend too much time around negativity, it begins to seep into your thoughts, your emotions, and even your sense of self-worth. You start to doubt yourself, question your happiness, and lose your spark. But when you make a conscious choice to fill your life with positivity, with people, activities, and environments that lift your spirit, you begin to heal from that negativity and rebuild your inner strength. Positivity isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing light even when surrounded by darkness. Toxic people often drain you because they feed on attention, drama, and emotional reactions. They spread negativity like smoke. It fills every space they enter. To counter that, you need to open the windows of your soul and let in fresh air through positive connections. Choose to be around those who inspire you, who speak with kindness, who celebrate your growth instead of envying it. A single conversation with someone who believes in you can undo the damage caused by 100 toxic words. The company you keep shapes the quality of your thoughts, and your thoughts shape the direction of your life. Positivity doesn't just come from people. It also comes from what you feed your mind every day. The books you read, the music you listen to, the shows you watch, and even the social media you follow all influence your emotional energy. When you're dealing with negativity, you need to be intentional about what you consume. Choose content that uplifts you, motivates you, and fills you with peace. Spend time in nature, listen to calming music, or read something that nourishes your spirit. Little things like that make a big difference in cleansing your mental space from toxicity. Sometimes, we can't avoid toxic people completely. They may be colleagues, family members, or even old friends. But by surrounding yourself with positivity, you build a protective shield. You may not be able to stop their behavior, but you can stop their energy from entering your heart. Think of it like wearing a raincoat in a storm. The rain doesn't stop, but it can't soak you. Positive energy acts as that protective layer, helping you stay calm and centered, even when others are chaotic. You can also create positivity within yourself through gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's wrong to what's right. When you begin your day by acknowledging even the smallest blessings, you start to see life from a place of abundance rather than lack. Toxic people lose their power over you when you live with gratitude, because your happiness no longer depends on external validation. You become grounded in appreciation instead of frustration. Another way to cultivate positivity is by giving it. The more kindness, encouragement, and hope you spread, the more you attract It's a cycle. When you lift others, you rise too. When you speak words of life and love, you fill your own heart with light. Toxic people thrive on taking, while positive people thrive on giving. And giving creates joy that no one can steal from you. Ultimately, surrounding yourself with positivity is about creating an environment where your peace can grow. It's not about ignoring the bad. It's about feeding the good so much that the bad loses its influence. You may not be able to change toxic people, but you can choose who gets close enough to affect your mood. Protect your circle, guard your energy, and remember that positivity is not just a choice. It's a lifestyle. When you fill your world with it, even the darkest people can't dim your light. Forgiveness is one of the hardest yet most liberating steps. When dealing with toxic people, it's often misunderstood as approval of what they did or permission for them to hurt you again. But that's not what true forgiveness means. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the emotional prison that bitterness builds. When you hold on to anger or resentment, you carry the person who hurt you everywhere you go. You replay their words, their actions, and their betrayal over and over again in your mind. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. The truth is, they may move on with their life while you remain trapped in the pain. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to them. It's a gift you give to yourself. When someone hurts you deeply, your first instinct is to hold on to the pain, to seek revenge or closure. But toxic people rarely give you closure. They rarely admit their mistakes. Waiting for them to change or apologize only extends your suffering. Forgiveness is your way of saying, I no longer give you the power to control how I feel. It's about taking your energy back. You cannot heal in the same space where the pain was created. And forgiveness is how you step out of that space emotionally, even if you still have to coexist with the person physically. Forgiving a toxic person doesn't mean letting them back into your life. You can forgive someone in your heart and still set firm boundaries. Forgiveness doesn't mean trust. It means release. It's the difference between remembering what happened and relieving it. You keep the lesson but let go of the burden. When you forgive, you stop carrying the emotional weight of anger, fear, or hatred. That weight may have become familiar, but it's still heavy. Letting it go feels uncomfortable at first, but soon you realize how much lighter your soul feels when it's free from resentment. Sometimes we struggle to forgive because we think it makes us weak, but in reality, it takes incredible strength to forgive. Anyone can hold a grudge. It takes real courage to let go. Forgiveness is not an act of surrender. It's an act of empowerment. It says, you may have hurt me, but you cannot destroy me. I choose peace over pain. Every time you forgive, you heal a little more. Your heart begins to open again, your mind becomes clearer, and your spirit feels lighter. Forgiveness also allows space for growth and wisdom. When you forgive, you're not erasing what happened, you're reframing it. You begin to see that even the most painful experiences can teach you something valuable. Maybe they taught you patience, discernment, or self-worth. Toxic people can be harsh teachers, but their lessons are often the ones that push you to evolve. Through forgiveness, you transform wounds into wisdom and scars into strength. There's also a spiritual dimension to forgiveness. When you hold on to resentment, your heart is too full of anger to receive peace. But when you forgive, you open the door for healing and divine calm to enter. You stop fighting battles that are no longer yours to fight and let the universe or karma handle the rest. In that surrender, you find serenity. Forgiving toxic people doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process, a choice you may have to make every day until the pain no longer controls you. But every time you choose forgiveness, you reclaim a piece of your power. You remind yourself that your happiness is too precious to be held hostage by the past. Forgiveness doesn't change what happened, but it changes how you carry it. And when you finally let go, you discover that peace was never about them. It was about you all along.